a handful, maybe even more than that, places throughout the area. But they do 6 people every night. Every night.
You know,
Then there's no, and there's a long waiting list to get in.
A lot of people tossing
It shows
and turning.
you there's a lot of people, yeah. But it's beyond the tossing and turning. It's beyond, it really is, they're saying that this sleep apnea is tied to so many different complications, including heart disease. Mm-hmm. So people with heart attacks and high blood pressure and so many other things. So, but last night I did sleep. Last night was part 2. So you do the first one. They wire you up with all these wires. Cleaning up is getting all the sticky stuff off you is part of it in the morning. But
sounds pleasant.
Pleasant, yeah. All the sticky stuff off you in the morning, Andrew. It's just rough.
I hate that.
Anyway, this was part 2, so I had the mask on, and I tried a couple different masks. And it will affect you a little bit if you have some claustrophobia. And I think I know I do have a little bit. But anyway, I slept on my back for the first time in a long time. So that's probably a good thing, right? Mm-hmm. All right, lots to get into here today. A lot of things going on. We're going to talk to Rachel Sutherland coming up in just a second on this big meeting. And I guess I'm kind of disgusted by the meeting. Because you knew you knew it was going to happen. This was staged. It's a staged event. This Ryan Trump thing is completely staged, and it's all part of the strategy to try to get people to see that. They've come around, and he's the guy. I'm really turned off by it.
But what press conference isn't staged? What meeting?
It wasn't a press conference that I'm talking about.
But what publicly heralded meeting does not have an aspect of, stagery.
The one where Paul Ryan, who's representing the established Republican Party, in advance comes out and says, "I can't. I'm not there." Mm-hmm. And so we're to believe, and he's still not there, by the way. Big surprise. So we're to believe that some of the things that Trump has said that just go beyond decency. All of a sudden, Paul Ryan's okay with that?
Well, he said he still wasn't there.
He's not there, but he will be. That's the next step. This is part 2, and then part 3 comes where we finally reached. Trump has come around, and we've been able to come up with an agreement, and I just don't buy it. There will be a third-party candidate, and I'll be voting for that person. It might be Mitt Romney. It might be, I don't know who it'll be, but it'll be a Republican, a conservative, and I can't wait for that person to come out. That's just my take on it. Don't get going, Jim Zecca and the Trump people. I'll still give you all your time. I've never said I would vote for Donald Trump. I've always said I wouldn't, but I'm waiting for the third-party candidate. The party is still split. Paul Ryan is doing his best, but it's all staged. I'm disgusted by it.
I guess the only thing I was...
It's not a press conference. It's an ideology. It's not a press conference. It's ethics. It's not a press conference. It's standing up for what's right. And this is old politics, and it disgusts me. And don't think Bernie Sanders is going to run a third... Zecca continues to tell us that Bernie Sanders is going to run a third-party campaign. He's not going to. He's only playing for his own... trying to get his own agenda in there. He knows he's going to step down despite what he's doing, and he would never run a third-party campaign in a million years. I don't see it. But somebody on the Republican side is going to. And I'm going to tell you something. I think they could win. I think a Mitt Romney could come in. I'm not sure Mitt Romney, but somebody, maybe Mitt Romney, probably is the most established. He could come in and win. The same way that I think on the Democrat side, a Biden could come in. And maybe this might be the year where a third-party candidate could actually win.
I agree with you on the Democratic side with respect to Biden. I don't agree with you with the Republican side. Mm-hmm.
I don't care if anybody agrees with me.
I understand.
I'm not here for people to agree with me. I'm telling you what I feel. Mm-hmm. And that's that.
Got it.
Yeah, I guess I disagree as well, but you're the guy who slept with an oxygen mask.
You're right. I had a lot of oxygen in me last night to think about this. And you know what else did it for me was I watched Bill Kristol last night. Mm-hmm. And I respect him. He's a conservative. I don't agree with everything, some of the social issues and that, but he and many others who are his whole thing isn't even about philosophy or policy. his whole thing is basically about the decency, the things that have been said, that he should never be, no matter what his policy is, based on the things that have come out of his mouth and his actions, he should never be president of the United States. And for that, I wholeheartly agree. He swayed me last night. I watched an interview with him with the awful goof on CNN. But I was swayed by him.
Bill Kristol is someone for whom I have great regard, but his ideology is not necessarily that of the Conservative Party now, today. His conservatism is the same way it was 15, 20, maybe even 10 years ago. I think that the Conservative Party is different today than it was before, in that prior to, I'm going to say, Barack Obama, the election of Barack Obama, that the Conservative Party was about unifying their side. Today, the Conservative Party doesn't care whether or not their side is unified, and it is seen as a divisive force in many factions. Now, a conservative may disagree with that, but
they will, and I'll tell you why, because where I think you're wrong is a true conservative's values are still the same today. The people that are claiming to be conservatives today and wanting to hijack the party or shut the government down, they're not conservatives. There's a completely different.
But they're saying that they are.
They can say what they want.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying.
Right. They can, but that's not the Conservative Party. I don't believe it. Radio Pup is down. I don't believe that's the Conservative Party. There's a lot here, and we can get into it, and I'm probably not going to get into it all that much. But I'm just telling you what I was inspired by him, and I do believe that a Bill Kristol is conservative values, and he sold me last night. I was sold by him last night.
But is a Bill Kristol's conservative values the same as a
Yes.
Glenn Beck's?
No, it's not the same.
And
as
that's what I'm saying.
A Glenn Beck's, because Glenn Beck is different, and his version of conservatism.
That's what I'm saying.
Is not Ronald Reagan's conservative. Most Republicans would say conservatism is Ronald Reagan's conservatism, right? It's the Conservative Party of Ronald Reagan.
Right.
That is not Glenn Beck.
Right.
And that is not even Ted Cruz.
Right.
It's completely different. So I'm with the, I guess I'm with the establishment of that. So Bill Kristol very much inspired me last night. So not that I'm going to go on some Glenn Beck rampage or anything like that. I'm just saying I'm waiting for him to say, there will be a third-party candidate, and I'm voting for that person, and I believe that person can win. To me, that carries a little bit of clout, I think. Quickly, we're going to have news coming up in a second. We have a beautiful day on the way if you like garbage weather. 65 today with rain. It'll be rainy tomorrow as well with the highs in the 60s, but here's where it gets a little tricky. For the weekend, we might be looking at even a little bit of, we could see overnight, a little bit of wet snow. Not going to be much, but it's just going to be cold enough. We're a high on Sunday, only of 47 degrees. Pretty amazing. Rachel Sutherland, Andrews, on which line? On line, I can't see what you said.
Two.
Is that two? Rachel Sutherland, we're talking about this Trump-Ryan meeting from last night or from yesterday. They all came out. And what do we know out of this whole thing, Rachel?
Well, they issued a joint statement shortly after this, about 45-minute meeting between House Speaker Paul Ryan, Donald Trump, and RNC Chair Reince Priebus, saying that this was a first step. They planted the seeds toward party unity. They thought it was a positive meeting. Interestingly, I thought, well, they didn't really have time during that 45 minutes to write this crafted statement. I imagine that might have been done some time ago. That's just the cynic in me, though.
Me too. That's what we were just talking about. I find it... and you tell me what you think, Rachel. I find it somewhat staged. This is part of the plan to bring Donald Trump around in hopes to rally, and what the objective was, and to rally those that are really still standoffish when it comes to Trump.
Right, exactly. This did have a little bit of feeling of being contrived, but at the same time, it's something that Donald Trump, I think, believes, and party leaders believe, ultimately needs to happen. As they go into the convention with a splintered party, that would give the Democrats fuel to say, look, this party over here can't even get their act together. We have our acts together over here.
Yeah.
So it depends on what you believe and what your political affiliation is. And then there's some of the Trump camp who don't like the idea of him at all hanging out with the establishment.
Right. I mean, that's really in contrast to I think they were comfortable when he was at odds with the establishment.
But what's fascinating is that even if Donald Trump were to win the White House, he suddenly becomes inside the Beltway. It's just the way politics work.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many times I've heard people campaigning on the fact that they're not going to be the everyday politician, and then they get here and life changes.
Yeah. Well, he's already kind of hinting at that, right? Well, the ban on Muslims was just a suggestion. This still has to pass. And my taxes, well, they're probably going to go up on the wealthy, but not where they are today based on my tax plan. It does seem that he's already kind of hedging to the middle slightly.
But that may be a strategy for him that could work because, again, there's so many people who are toward the middle who have been put off by the kinds of things that he said. Maybe he's trying to go for kind of a big tent idea. The bottom line is Speaker Ryan stopped short of an endorsement when he came out for his weekly presser yesterday, but then said that this was a good first step, basically, and that they're going to have more meetings. They stuck to the basic Republican principles, talking about that. They'll go on to more specifics later, but they've only really got a couple of months before the convention. They need to be able to have their party planks laid out.
Last night I watched Bill Kristol come out, and this is the problem for Trump, is there are still many Republicans that are not going to come around. The Bushes, obviously Mitt Romney and Bill Kristol and others that have come out and said, as he did, I'm waiting for the third-party candidate. There will be a Republican third-party candidate. This is Bill Kristol last night. There will be a third-party candidate, and that's who I will vote for.
I've heard that, too. In fact, I was talking with Judson Phillips with Tea Party Nation, I guess, last week about this very thing, and they were part of the whole Never Trump movement. And, mentioning a third-party candidate, but the clock is ticking, and I haven't heard any real name that's like, oh, yeah, that person can do that.
Well, the word is that Mitt Romney is considering. But, again, time is ticking. There are 2 states, I think, where he would have to sue to get on the ballot because of an early deadline. So there's a lot to be had here. Very interesting. And who knows, maybe Joe Biden will still jump in. Anything could happen. Yeah. All right, good stuff. Rachel Sutherland, enjoy the weekend. And there she goes. Christine has news, 6:30 now at WIBX. Andrew? Oh, here's Jeff. Okay, we can do that. My arms just aren't long enough. We'll do news coming up with Christine Bellino and Jim Zecca. I'm sorry for what I said. I really am. But it's no different.
No, you're not.
It's no different from what I've said the whole time. I can't vote for him, and I won't. I'm just not going to harp on it. Is that fair?
Yeah, but why are you?
I'm just not going to harp on it.
Okay.
Here is a quick break, and then Christine coming up on WIBX.